Chapter 307 to 309. Ray watched in untold amusement as Conan, who was currently comfortably snuggling into his chest while drooling, finally stirred, waking up from her undoubtedly pleasant dreams. Her drowsy eyes slowly opened with confusion as her sleep-muddled mind tried to catch up. Conan suddenly flared bright red, no doubt realizing her current position. Despite her embarrassment, she just slightly lifted her head and looked Ray straight into his eyes, a happy smile stretching on her lips. "Good morning." She tried to play off her embarrassment by acting as if nothing happened. Ray lifted an eyebrow at her, the corner of his lips tugging upward while his eyes amusedly flickered at the wet spot on his chest, causing Conan to flush even deeper red as he returned her greeting. "Good morning. I see you slept well." Conan narrowed her eyes and bit her lower lip. "And whose fault is that?" She playfully huffed, mentally feeling her pleasantly sore body pressing into Ray's figure and sharing their warmth. "No comment. Any answer I could give you will be used against me," Ray quipped. Conan giggled at that before she returned her cheek to her comfortable place on Ray's chest. "So true, ... double quotes," she hummed as Ray started to absently stroke her hair. The duo enjoyed the slow and comfy morning in the bed, unburdened by their duties. These could and would wait. It was only after some time that Ray noticed Conan had a strange expression and decided to ask her what was bothering her. "I must have received a memory package from my clones while I slept. They finally managed to scout the other continents to some degree," she stated in reply. "I am just surprised there is no mention of chakra there. Maybe they have a different name for it." Ray tried to be helpful, but then a thought occurred to him. "You know, in the legends, it is said it was the sage of the six paths that taught humans how to use chakra. Since the guy was obviously active in the elemental nations, he probably didn't travel to other continents. Maybe they just never figured out how to make use of chakra or that it even exists," Ray theorized. The history of chakra and how it came to be was confusing at best. "That's possible. My clones didn't focus on the history there, yet. I ordered them to focus on looking for anyone who could be a threat," Conan said with a sigh. "It is going slowly since I'd rather not attract unwanted attention." Ray didn't have any complaints about that. Firstly, he knew there would be no invasion of note before the Fourth Great Ninja War, so, unlike Conan, he wasn't overly worried about the other continents. It didn't really matter for him if the progress on that front went slow. It wasn't as if he had actual time to pay attention to what happened overseas. According to Yuriko's observations from the moon, on the west, there is a continent 10 times the size of elemental nations. I wasn't able to get there yet with my paper clones, but I managed to infiltrate it. Well, I am unsure if I should call it a continent or an island, but between this massive continent and our home, there is a land as big as land of fire, earth, and wind put together. It is quite close to the massive continent, and in comparison to it, it's but an island. To be honest, Conan explained, knowing Ray didn't pay the other continents much attention, so she was trying to give him all the necessary information in a small compressed bundle. It felt as if I entered one of the remote underdeveloped parts of elemental nations with a different culture and sense of fashion. To be honest, she chuckled. My clone instantly stood out. "So, medieval setting, huh?" Ray outwardly hummed in acknowledgement. "Kinda expected. If they were technologically developed enough to build planes, they would discover elemental nations long ago. The only mention of something out of the ordinary I managed to get was just rumors about silver-eyed witches and man-eating monsters. Honestly, ... You wouldn't believe how superstitious the people there are," Conan huffed. Still, my clone didn't find any of the two, but the villagers seemed to have a way to contact these witches, so they most likely real. Ray was shocked when he heard her silver-eyed witches. Claymore, but if that's true, then the bigger continent to the west might be the home of the two races that are warring among themselves. The human land was supposed to be just some experimental ground or something, if I remember correctly. Ray's thoughts then skipped towards the ... human-eating monsters. It was certainly possible that their yoki was just tainted chakra. One just had to look at Orochimaru's handicrafts to see that it was definitely possible to create monsters via science. Not noticing Ray's pondering mood, Conan continued with her report, inwardly enjoying his absent-minded gentle caressing of her hair. "To the south, the continent closest to us is quite technologically developed, but the people don't seem to have any independent supernatural abilities. They instead focus on tools. My clones recorded a technology similar to the chakra armor powered by an unknown energy source that could be dangerous if they are able to outfit an army with it and cross the ocean," Ray remarked. "Any information about how good this armor is? Normal soldiers wearing it are around low Chunin level threats if the guys that tried to apprehend my clone were any indication." Conan's cheeks briefly reddened as she averted her gaze. That infiltration didn't go well. My clone might or might not have decimated a military camp. In my defense, they were rude when I wanted to just ask a few questions, Ray snorted. It was praiseworthy that they discovered Conan sneaking around. Most likely some of their technology isn't so shabby. Still, the most important question was, do they have the means to cross the ocean? No, and yes. Conan calmed down and continued. Yes, they have sufficient technology that with some ... She briefly paused before chuckling. Oh, who am I kidding? With a shitload of luck, they might be able to get through all the monsters lurking in the waters between the continents. Will they waste the resources to do so? Nope. That's not gonna happen anytime soon. Oh, are you sure? Ray asked, remembering there was a Naruto movie about some invaders. Then again, Genin Team 7 managed to subdue them all, so ... The countries on that continent have problems of their own, and the existence of elemental nations is basically just a legend. Not many believe there is a different continent beyond the sea. Our countries won't dispatch an army without proof. That's good, Ray said. Yeah, the strongest nation on that continent is currently in a sort of civil war anyway, and the surrounding countries are just waiting like hungry dogs to pounce once it's weakened enough. My clones heard they use something called tegu in that country, but there is no confirmation since they haven't infiltrated it yet. Ray furrowed his eyebrows. Tegu, really? I guess the danger beasts might be likened to chakra beasts, and the tegu could possibly be something like Samihara, but ... Okay, whatever. I don't care. He released a suffering sigh. It could have been worse. It could have been a cultivation world or something. I think I should be grateful for these small mercies. Just keep up with your information gathering and try to get into the mainland of the Western continent and reach the Eastern continent with your clones. No hurry. Unless they are planning to invade us, there is no need to intervene in their affairs. The best would be if they had no idea about the existence of Elemental Nation altogether. We don't really have the time for other continents since Kumo and Iwa are getting restless because of the alliance talks between Konoha, Kiri and Suna. Naruto was annoyed. He never really wanted to become a shinobi, but he knew he had no choice in the matter since his daddy Dearest decided to add some fox stuffing into him. But inwardly seething at being forced to become a shinobi and outwardly showing his displeasure were two very different things. He might have been young, but he was not stupid. If he was not being given an option anyway, he might as well go with the flow and milk it for all it was worth. Hence, his foolhardy and prankster image was created to cover his real skill and personality. Only when Anko started to take care of him did his silent discontent at his situation improve. For the first time in his life, Naruto gained a proper reason to be a ninja. He wanted to prove himself to Anko, to become stronger, to prove that her training him, giving him the time of her day, was worth it, and to be able to protect her. Academy was a tedious matter for Naruto. Even the improved curriculum wasn't challenging enough considering he was being chased by Anko's massive serpents hellbent on eating him alive through the training ground. 44 every afternoon. And according to Anko, that was a warm-up before the real training began. There really was nothing of interest in the academy for Naruto, so he used the time to perfect his cheerful and foolish facade of a prankster. After all, there was no sense in wasting his time even more than he was already forced to. When he finally graduated from the academy, Naruto cheered and celebrated. He even wanted to paint the Hokage monument from the sheer joy of leaving his dull repetitive lifestyle, and only the fear of livid Tsunade stopped him short of buying paint cans. Now ... Imagine Naruto's surprise when, after 2 weeks of vacation due to medical reasons, damn that Kakashi, his team finally received their first mission. Naruto wasn't an impressionable dumb kid with grand unreachable dreams and determination to reach them that could only be acquired through long-term brainwashing and mental conditioning. He knew there would be no saving princesses or protecting the daimyo for him and his team anytime soon, but weeding the garden of some old bitch who glared at him the entire time. Could you blame him that with every 2 weeds he pulled out, he also mistakenly pulled out a herb payment reduction or not? It was totally worth it. Fortunately, Anko taught him which herbs were the really precious ones, so by the time their mission was done, the old woman was pale with silent pent-up rage at his clumsiness, while Anko tried to hide her smile behind her left hand as her right one was firmly grasping Kakashi's shoulder, preventing him from intervening. Not that the lazy ass had any intention of doing anything after Anko stopped him in his tracks the first time he tried to step forward and reprimand. No, Anko most likely just liked how the porn lover shuddered with her hand that could at any time crush his bones to mush on his shoulder. But even with his incredible patience, somewhere between the 16th time his team was forced to walk Inusuka's dogs and the 13th time they had to repair a damn fence, Naruto had had enough. Could anyone blame him for using a bear trap on poor little Tora? Naruto's disappointment was immense when the stupid cat survived. As a last-ditch effort, he started acting like a whiny brat, exactly as his facade dictated, and demanded a searing mission. Naruto had no idea how well he sold his act. Probably not so well considering it was Shikaku Nara who lifted his eyebrow at him in amusement before he silently turned towards Kakashi with a question written in his eyes. When Kakashi nervously shuffled while pretending to be extremely interested in the current chapter of his porn, Shikaku took it as agreement. Much to the betrayed glance, the white-haired Jonin threw him after the Hokage announced they were getting their first C-rank mission. Needless to say, Naruto was elated. He knew the very first C-rank is customary bandit extermination to make the genins used to killing as quickly and safely as possible. After all, if one doesn't have the mental fortitude to kill, there is no reason to continue with the ninja career. Naruto doubted there would be a person with such a problem in his team. The months of D-rank missions made sure to heighten their frustration enough that they needed a special kind of distressing activity. Somebody was gonna die and the only question was who. And then Team 7 was given the mission with the least possibility of getting into a fight. A protection detail over a dumb, unimportant drunk who liked to piss Naruto off by cracking jokes about his height. Just ... great. The question of who Naruto will slaughter at the end of the mission was slowly becoming apparent ... Anko walked behind their client with hands behind her head and a deceptively cheerful gait in her steps while her eyes subtly hovered over Naruto. She was aware how twitchy he was in the past month. It was just natural. During his training, she did not only hone his skills but also his instincts. He probably didn't even realize it, but his frustration from doing chores somewhat lessened the hold on the stabbiness Anko instilled in him. That was fine. The kid just had to learn how to control himself, and that required nothing but experience. Usually a good beating got rid of all of the brat's frustration, but if he wanted to get better emotional control, he needed practical experience. So, during the past month, Anko didn't spar with him, letting his frustration slowly build up. She was aware Naruto most likely expected bandit extermination as their first C rank. After all, it was her who told him about that tradition. The new improved curriculum in the academy contained one lesson in the last week before graduation. The kids were taken into Konoha's prison and then they had to kill a prisoner. The bandit extermination was more of a test if they can replicate the feat in action and during the threat on their own life. But Anko didn't think her team needed such a test. Now when she nearly killed them on a weekly basis during her training sessions. As such, she took this protection detail. It was cute, seeing Naruto act like a total brat and demand a C. He had no idea Anko had already picked a C rank for them and they would get it today no matter what. Anko's eyes moved towards their client and her lips slightly twitched. I wonder what he is hiding. She narrowed her eyes. The man was too nervous for her liking. The fact that Tsunade told her to send a message if anything went wrong with the mission, as if she already expected problems, didn't instill much confidence in Anko either. Then again, Anko was also happy that Tsunade trusted her enough to still send her on the mission despite having a hunch it would go horribly wrong. She might be just a chunin on the official records, but Anko was S-class skill-wise. If even she was unable to finish the mission, then sending even a team of jonin would be pointless. Anko suddenly stiffened a bit as her snakes warned her of possible hostiles. She quickly relaxed and continued with her carefree pace, not giving any hint that she was wary. Her eyes briefly glanced in Kakashi's direction, showing him a wide, cocky grin when she realized he noticed her brief stiffening. The white-haired jonin just shrugged in apathy before he returned to his smut, but now there was a concealed edge behind his movements. Anko looked at her three students who poutingly walked in front of their client, still clueless about the approaching threat. She inwardly chuckled. All the pieces were in their place. As the group walked through the path surrounded by trees, Anko suddenly looked upward, inwardly cursing while her hands whirled into weaving seals. Kuchioshi, she exclaimed as smoke started filling the surroundings. Not a second later, a serpentine shadow rapidly slithered towards the bridge builder Tozuna, coiling around the man who was about to piss himself. Not comprehending the situation, Anko's summon barely managed to cover the man as an explosive lightning bolt fell from the clear sky, diving right into the smoke directly onto where the client was supposed to be. Naruto, Sasuke and Hinata jumped around in fright when the booming sound started resounding through the area while more bolts started raining down, all aiming to end their client. Their brains were trying to desperately process what just happened, never before experiencing a sneak attack aimed not at them, but at their client. Frankly, neither of the genins thought such a thing would happen, so this proved to be a very good life lesson for them. Kakashi released a relieved sigh, his tensed muscles relaxing while the crackling electricity around his right hand started to diminish. The only reason why he didn't jump forward in an attempt to redirect the lightning bolt the second he felt the surge of chakra above them was that Anko reacted first. He was a bit thankful for that when he saw more and more lightning bolts being conjured. He could take on one or two no problem, but more than that would be difficult even for his Chidori. "Thank you, Kamin," Anko said in relief after the lightning stopped raining. She had to admit, this sudden attack almost succeeded. Whoever was responsible clearly had enough brains to realize that killing the civilian was the best option. Fortunately, Kamin was a snake summon resistant to lightning. No matter how many bolts fell from the sky onto her body, she wouldn't even feel it. The second Anko felt the surge of lightning chakra, she knew exactly what summon to use. Kamin, who was towering over the group of ninjas while coiling around the civilian, moved her head to give Anko an acknowledging nod. Isis's Fini Ankochin, a quiet masculine hiss, replied to Anko's thanks. "Please cover for the client while we deal with the annoyances," Anko requested while standing up from her crouch. She half expected the attacker to retreat and try again later. At least, that's what she would have done. But she was clearly mistaken if the 5 figures that jumped in front of them from the treetops were any indication. Kamin nodded in agreement, warily observing the 5 ninjas that blocked the path. Reiga Kurasuki, Aoi Rakusho and 3 Rain Genin. Kakashi boredly spoke. How unyouthful. Kakashi tried to be funny, but his eye smile became a bit forced as he said those words. "Of you to try and ambush us." Aoi ignored Kakashi's remark and turned towards Reiga. "Are you sure you can deal with the copycat?" He survived so far only because of his caution, and fighting one of the most infamous ninjas of Konoha head-on wasn't very clever in his books. That said, Reiga was also equally infamous, and as a former member of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist, Aoi decided to trust him to take Kakashi on. Not that he wouldn't bolt away the second he finds Reiga struggling. Who do you think you are talking to, twerp? I will prepare a good funeral for him. Reiga stonily glanced at Iwai, causing him to shiver and reluctantly avert his eyes. In that case, I will take the snake bitch and the genins can fight it out among themselves, he said in a completely dismissive way that had his students nervously shuffle behind him. At that moment, Anko's lips stretched into a grin when she heard how much he was underestimating her. I guess it is only natural. The last time any information about me got out was years ago when I was still a chunin, she inwardly snickered, preparing to give Aoi a proper beatdown. Kakashi threw his genins a worried glance, but when they saw them either excited or determined, he only silently sighed and jumped to the side, trying to distance his fight with Reiga from the genins. Anko did the same, just in a different manner. She leisurely walked a bit further from the road into the forest, making sure that Aoi unhurriedly followed her while the kiddies were left alone to play with each other. You are the bastard who stole the Rajan no Ken that belonged to the Senju clan, huh? Anko offhandedly asked with a skip in her step, looking around the area and subtly checking for traps while she also observed Iwai like a hawk with the corner of her eyes. Yes, I acquired the Rajan no Ken before defecting Konoha. He said it with obvious smugness as if it was an incredible accomplishment. And Konoha basically stole it from the Senju clan after Tsunade decided to leave the village. Anko nodded before flashing Aoi an innocent grin. Stealing is bad. You know, Aoi blinked in disbelief, furrowing his brows as if trying to reassure himself he heard right. We are ninjas. You know, he dryly replied. I guess that would make it all better. Anko chuckled. Don't worry, I will steal the sword from you after I beat you to death. Aoi just rolled his eyes and let his chakra course through the handle of Rajan no Ken, creating a lightning edge. Chunins shouldn't be so overconfident. I am actually surprised you are still loyal to Konoha with how they treated you. Why not defect to Rain? He tried. Anko sighed and shook her head before pulling out a kunai and coursing her chakra through it, shocking Aoi as the kunai gained a lightning coating. This was a Jonin level skill, and suddenly Aoi wasn't as confident as before. Tell you what, double quotes Anko started. Since you are going to be dead in a moment anyway, there is no harm in being honest. She shrugged. I am not loyal to These words would definitely earn Anko a punishment if she said it out loud in the hearing range of a Konoha ninja. Even Aoi was flabbergasted that Anko actually had the balls to admit it so openly. I am loyal to the Senju clan, and you, my dear soon-to-be miserable idiot, did something that pissed Lady Tsunade off. Anko now understood why Tsunade told her to be cautious and send a message if anything out of ordinary happened. Seeing a guy who stole the Rajan no Ken in front of her, Anko got the message loud and clear. Enough talking. I will show you the might of the second Hokage wielded by me, Aoi shouted and dashed at Anko while she watched him approach with a deadpan expression, wondering if the guy was really so arrogant as to think he was on par with Tobirama just because he stole his shiny sword. The same sword Tobirama seldom used, wordlessly swinging her kunai upward while bracing herself for the impact. Anko parried Aoi's blow and locked her kunai with his sword, lightning crackling against lightning as her bored eyes met Aoi's shocked gaze. The Rajan no Ken was supposed to be able to cut through anything. I have unlimited access to the Senju library. Did you really think I wouldn't know how to block the second sword, especially since the sword itself is not really a weapon but a training tool for lightning shape manipulation? Anko asked in an amused drawl. Honestly, morons these days, using training tools as if they were weapons.